Sharon, cancel all my appointments for the rest of today. Hi, welcome back to Gavin Reads It All, and in today's video I will be going through my worst books of 2025. I actually struggled a little bit with this list. Usually I'm pretty good at curating my worst books of the year list, but I don't think I've read a whole lot of things that I would consider was the worst of the year. So this could end up potentially being a pretty shorter video than usual, and I'm so fine with that. I'm so glad that I think the majority of the books I read this year were wins in my eyes. However, we did still get some sneaks in there. I did DNF quite a few books this year, and I'm only including a few of the DNFs I thought were genuinely so bad I had to stop reading. There are many other DNFs that I had this year where it was just like maybe the wrong time, maybe it just wasn't for me at the moment, so I haven't put those on this list. I really have only put on the books that I would consider the worst in this video. The obvious disclaimer first as well, these are all my opinions, feel free to disagree, but please try not to take anything I say personally. At the end of the day, these are all just books. It ain't that serious. We all have different opinions on things. So let's keep it respectful, let's keep it mindful. Meanwhile, grab yourself a drink, like the video if you enjoy, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's delve into my worst books of the year. Gavin Reads It All, flip it around, Wicked Witch. So one of the books that I DNF'd this year was Lights Out by Kayla James. This one was so incredibly painful to get through. I ended up DNFing at 103 pages, so I do think I got quite a ways into this, where I feel like I got a really good sense of where it was going, and things were moving a little bit too quickly. And I'm not going to really repeat every single summary of these books to you, because I'm trying my best to help you to avoid some bad books, in my opinion anyway. You might end up loving this, you might end up enjoying any of the books I mentioned in this video, but I'm not trying to sell them to you, if you know what I mean. But I will say this does follow Blake, and she becomes a Formula One driver, and there is just no chance in hell that she would have become a Formula One driver. She had no training whatsoever, she only ever does small circuits at home, so this was the least believable F1 romance I have ever read in my life. And this could have been such a great representation of women in sport and how powerful they can be, but the author went out of her way to make Blake seem like such a klutzy character that she has to be picked up so many times from the main love interest. And there were multiple instances of this happening where he would just pick her up in his big strong arms and she would be carried in. If I had to get through this childish dialogue one more time, it was so cringy. Blake and her best friend had some of the worst dialogue as well. I did some examples in my F1 romances vlog, and oh my gosh, I cringed so hard. And the love interest writer as well falls for her straight away. This is insta love, and there was just no tension there was no spark, no chemistry. Blake was a child, she behaved like a child, she had the dialogue of a child, and I'm supposed to believe that these are F1 drivers. Pfft, yeah, right. I would be more convinced of myself becoming an F1 driver, and I don't even drive. I don't even know how. Another DNF was We Love You Bunny. I got 51 pages into this, and this is more a me problem as well. I don't like second person narratives, and it's so funny as well because I got a little bit of an argument with someone over this book, and they were like, oh my god, you're taking this a little bit too far, aren't you? Not like in second person. Does that mean you also hate first person? And I'm like, do you know the difference between first person and second person? Do you know the difference? Second person is actively trying to make you the character, and I could not stand it. I could not stand it in any book really, because a lot of the times the way that the characters talk to you does not feel believable. We had one of the bunnies talking to the main character, aka me, trying to describe everything, trying to describe the scene. Like, we are looking at you with our long lashes, in our dresses are waving prettily in the sunlight, and all this and the other. I'm just like, you do not talk like that. Nobody talks like that to someone. But that's the thing with a lot of second person narratives, is that the author is still trying to make you see what's around you, but the only way that they can do that sometimes is when the character is talking to you. And so I hate that kind of writing style because it just feels fake, it feels false to me. And I don't like it as well when I'm being described as a character and they're saying I look a certain way or I am a certain way, and I'm just like, I'm really not. That's not me at all. But I will say again, this is also a huge me problem as well. I will try in the future to overlook my problems with second person point of views, but I was also extremely disappointed by the fact that a lot of the mystique in the first book, Bunny by Mona Award, I really enjoyed that book. I gave it 4.5 stars. That book had so much mystique around the bunnies, around the characters, and this one just obliterated it in 50 pages. It was getting rid of all of the mystery surrounding them, and a lot of the allure there as well with the characters just fizzled out so quickly. And it's one of those things where if we got less from this world, that would have been so much better, because I feel like the power of Bunny sometimes is the fact that you can use your imagination to fill in some of the blanks. And this one was just I want to fill in everything and you're going to like it. Another DNF was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I read Part of Your World. That was also pretty disappointing, but it's not in my worst books, don't worry. But then I did get into Say You'll Remember Me. And oh, I did get 151 pages into this one, so I did make it quite far. But the characters were just like awful. Xavier, the main love interest, was awful. He was a vet. And literally, the first time we meet him, he's telling the main character to put her kitten down. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, she doesn't need to be put down. And he was being so unprofessional. He was like, well, why did you come all this way then if you weren't going to listen to my advice? And then when she's like, I'm going to raise some money for this cat and, you know, actually get surgery for this cat that needs it, because if it gets surgery, it'll live. But the vet is telling me to put it down without trying. He's like, people are assholes. They're not going to put money towards this. Oh my God, he was awful. And then by page, was it 16 or 18? By page 16 or 18, he's like a changed person. I'm telling you, I'm not even over exaggerating. He is a changed person. He's met her once and he's like, I've been thinking about her nonstop ever since, and now I always like think before I speak, and now I'm good now. And he's supposed to be a grump, right? He's supposed to be like the whole like grumpy sunshine kind of dynamic. Oh my God, he's not a grump anymore by chapter 3. Chapter 3. So all of his personality just like completely like zapped away. Obsessed with her already, the main character. I believe she was called Samantha. Abby must have been in a rush to write this one, because there was not a second wasted making him in changing him completely after just one interaction. And the lengths that he goes to as well, to see her again and all this, and oh my God, it was like way too much, way too intense, way too quick. And I DNF'd after like the dozenth reference to Risan from Akatar. Apparently he looked like him, and it was mentioned so often. I was like, you know what, I hate this. I don't like it. I'm DNFing. Yeah, I can't believe it. He asked for a date on page 18. So this is one of those things where it's a romance, and I do want to be able to root for the main characters to fall in love. And I was actively rooting against it because I just couldn't stand Xavier after the first chapter. What do you mean it is your professional opinion to put this poor little kitten down when it actually didn't need to be put down? It was actually a terrible vet. And I'm supposed to believe that he cares about animals after that first interaction? No. Oh, another DNF was Out of the Blue by Jason June. That one had a little bit of a weird hyperfixation on teenagers having sex, and it was just making me feel uncomfortable. I didn't want to read it. And the main dynamic, again, like another one where like there's a romance I was actively rooting against. I don't like it when a main love interest is kind of childlike. So we have the main love interest who is a mer person called Crest, and it's their first time experiencing Earth. So they had the mind of a child because they didn't understand what was going on. And so we have our main character, I believe the main character was called Sean. The main character was like showing them things and everything, but I don't like that dynamic where it's like that person was like born yesterday. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of relationship where one of them is just too young or like too immature and they don't understand enough to know what's like fully going on. I didn't like that dynamic at all. It made me feel really uncomfortable reading it. I didn't know if this one's 68 pages in, so I didn't make it too far into it, but after reading all of that and just the weird fixation that the elders, you know, like of the mer people, the way that they had a fixation on like make sure you enjoy all of the human appendages, and just like all of these references and allusions to sex and like crass humor, it was a little too much for me for a young adult story. And Sean was very off-putting as the main character as well. They were very stalkerish. Another DNF was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. That one I DNF'd 227 pages in, so I did make a very good dent in that one. So this one was supposed to be an exploration into like BDSM and kinks and stuff like that. So we have two main characters who wanted to explore, you know, their kinks, which honestly I freaking love. But then nothing kinky happened. In my personal opinion, I don't think anything kinky actually happened up to the point where I DNF'd. And they were making this like whole issue of sex not being satisfying for them because it's too vanilla. And yet they went on to have 3 vanilla sex scenes. 3 vanilla sex scenes. That's when I DNF'd. You're making such a fuss about having like vanilla sex and how much that doesn't satisfy you, and yet you go on to have vanilla sex 3 times with the main character and how much you enjoy that. Like, I don't get it. They were like, oh, this is very 50 Shades. They said that so many times. The 50 Shades was not in the room with us. It felt like false advertising. It was just basic sex for a basic book. If you're going to actually explore your kinks and exploring all of that, more power to you. And I would have loved to have actually read that, but it just didn't. It didn't come across that way. And then the final DNF was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. That one, I genuinely believe, and I can't prove this, but I genuinely believe that Joe Abercrombie, with the characters, he wrote down a whole list of jokes that he found funny and hilarious. You know, like we have, you know, all of the potty humor and all of the humor that you might find funny if you're 10 years old. And he just distributed these jokes to all of his different characters in order to make them funny. Like the jokes came first to Joe Abercrombie and then the characters came to him, because oh my gosh, I was so fed up with this book trying to be serious and trying to be a little bit like dark and stuff, and then you'd have a character just say something so utterly unfunny, and they would say it again and again, and another character would come in with a quirk. I'm not into the potty humor or the overuse of curse words in order to be funny. Hey, I swear like a sailor. I really do. But even I know there's a limit, and I know as well, and it's very transparent when an author overuses curse words to be funny. And that's exactly what George Cromwell was doing. There were POV shifts at the start of the book as well that just kept taking me out of the story, and then the story just ended up getting wholly repetitive as well after that. It would just be a lot of travelling, a battle, travelling, battle, travelling, battle. The same things were happening over and over again, the same jokes were being told over and over again. I didn't like it. And I got 334 pages into The Devils. And that is a long ass time. I think the book is maybe like 500 or something. I could have just finished it, but I was not doing that to myself. Okay, that was my 16 Fs that I wanted to mention, and I do have 8 actual like worst books of the year that I actually finished. So we have The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. This one is more like, it was just incredibly boring. I really didn't like it because it was just so utterly boring, and the way that Roshni Chokshi wrote it as well. And I really like her middle grade. I love her Arusha series, but I really did not like this one. There was way too many metaphors and similes. There was way too much word salad at play here that it really did drown the narrative, because there was trying to be a plot that wasn't going anywhere because we just kept getting bogged down by all of the metaphors and similes. All of the lush description that she was trying to enforce into this book, and I was like, we need to stop trying it. It was the fastest love and romance with the slowest narration, the slowest storytelling style, and it was the most jarring thing that I've read all year. And it's one of those ones where it didn't really like offend me in any way, but it offended me because it was so boring. And the fact that I really do think that there was an imbalance between what was actually happening and the narration style. The plot was trying to be fast, while Roshni was writing too slow. I also read The Island by Adrian McKinty, and I will say it was highly entertaining of a concept, and if I told you exactly what happened in the book, I feel like you would be highly entertained by the plot points in the book, but it was so poorly written. It was terrible. Character dialogue, terrible. Character decisions, terrible. And I'm not going to accuse anyone of using AI, but I'm telling you, the character dialogue felt like it was ChatGPT. And I was personally offended by the amount of Australian stereotypes that were in this. And I'm not even Australian. And the author genuinely did give up writing this halfway through the book, because you will see that his word count starts to drop dramatically. And there are so many like instances of just using like one words and one word sentences and stuff like that. I was just like, he's trying to get this out as soon as possible. And if it feels to me like the author doesn't want to be there, why am I there? Why am I wasting my time reading it? So yeah, the story was highly entertaining, but so god-awfully terribly written. I read out an example in one of my Imposter Toss videos when I read this one, and it was so robotically written. He's really not trying. He's really not trying here to make this a pleasant reading experience. He just want to get words out on paper so we get that moolah. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix also has made my worst books of the year. But hey, Grady Hendrix also made my best books of the year this year, so that's something. But this man, I feel like it's on me at this point, because I seem to keep picking up his books, and I'm always disappointed, always. If I get anywhere near a new Grady Hendrix book again, I'm going to need you to hold me back, because we are not doing this again. If I walk down an aisle at Waterstones and I see a new Grady Hendrix book on the shelf, I'm evacuating immediately. It ain't happening. And I did go into this knowing that this would not be as witchy as, you know, the title suggests, Witchcraft Away with Girls. I think Grady came up with the title first and then forgot about it as he was writing this book. The witchcraft part of this, so underutilized. It's not even creatively integrated in the story as well. I would have loved it, because the main story of this is about girls who have lost their way. They have become wayward, and a lot of these girls come to this home who are pregnant, and I feel like it could have been such a fantastic opportunity to tie in witchcraft to these women's bodies changing, and how that, you know, comes across. Not only did I find it not scary in the slightest, there were a couple of fake outs to begin with. There are some gross moments in this that I did find highly entertaining. But again, there was no creativity behind anything. Like the witchcraft part of this, they would say maybe a spell or something, and it would be like, I'll repeat this 66 times. And things would be like maybe a little bit too easy when it comes to exacting some of those moments. I wanted to see a little bit more of a struggle. Like, how can we make this witchcraft or this element of the story something that the characters can work towards and hopefully grow from that too? It felt like there was zero character progression, and it didn't feel like we learned anything by the end of it. I was left scratching my head at the end of this thinking, why was this written, Grady Hendrix? Why did you feel the need to write the story? But I swear, he comes up with some of the best titles for books And then that's the best part. The best part literally is the title of the book. I just know all of these authors on the back here praising this book were paid to do so. I also have the Tommyknockers by Stephen King. So I feel like every single year for the next few years, there's always going to be a Stephen King book on my best books and potentially on my worst books lists as well. So I have 3 Stephen King books in my best books and I have 2 in my worst. So the Tommyknockers is unfortunately one of them. This one had such promise because I would have loved an alien story that was a little bit scary. And I really did love a lot of the premise of this, but my god, this does not need to be nearly 1,000 pages. In Stephen King, I did hear stories that this was like the height of his drugs usage, and I feel like you can really tell. You can really tell in this book. It's messy. I feel like he just had so many ideas and he just threw them at the wall, hoping something would stick. This was a little bit bizarre. There is a spaceship that we see at the very start of this book, and it takes up to page 800 to get into this freaking spaceship. It would be like Lost season 1. Instead of it having 25 episodes, it has 100 episodes, and everything is stretched out. Everything is just stretched out needlessly. This is split into books. I've just almost choked on the wine. Book 1 was good. I like that. Book 2, oh my god, so boring. Book 3 went crazy. Batshit crazy. There's a weird masturbation scene with a woman we just met, and she's doing it with a mutant carrot. I'll let that one sink in for just a second. I'm like, can you at least build this character up first before we see her shove a mutant carrot up her vagina? Like, where's the character development that I know and love from my Stephen King? There wasn't any in that moment, I can tell you that. And I can excuse the transparent tentacle vagina, but I draw the line at sentient killing Coca-Cola machines. Yes, it's as crazy as it sounds. That happens. A Coca-Cola machine, a proper vending machine, attacks someone, and it's so incredibly random. It doesn't make sense. So much of this does not actually make any sense. And I love things to be a little bit weird and a little bit freaky, but that was a little bit too much. Nearly 1,000 pages. If this was 500 pages, fair enough. This would not have been in my worst books of the year, but because you wanted to pad this out so much, so aimlessly, without any kind of direction, some of it felt like a waste of my time. And I will still, again, like read all of Stephen King's books from cover to cover. Absolutely, it's part of my Gavin Reads All the King series, so really it's time not wasted, but it felt like this was so unnecessary. And I'm just more devastated at the fact that this had so much potential. I love the idea of the Tommyknockers, but I ended up feeling disappointed by the end. And sometimes that can be one of the worst things that an author can do to you, is make you feel disappointment. So yeah, shame on you, Stephen. Shame on you. And here we have another Stephen King book here, The Talisman, that he co-wrote with Peter Straub. This, oh my gosh, I got interested. I think it was around about 380 pages in. This is also nearly 1,000 pages long. It doesn't need to be. It really doesn't need to be. It has a really dumb plot. When you consider what it is the main character is doing and how they could have easily done something at the very start of this book to prevent so much, honestly, this book could have literally been 100 pages with that in mind. In saying that though, there are some very interesting moments in this. Some parts of this that I genuinely loved. And unfortunately, if you cut those moments out, the actual plot would not have changed, which is so gutting to me because it felt like the parts I liked were the side tangents. It was some of the moments when we would stray off the main quest and do something really random. And there's an entire character in this who I love, but I'm telling you, if you cut them out, nothing would have changed. Absolutely nothing would have changed. That, I feel, is a testament to a really badly written book because it didn't feel like everything was necessary, including one of my favourite characters. And that breaks my heart to say, because this book would have been nothing without my favourite character. Nothing. I didn't give this one a 1. I think I gave this one like maybe a 2 star, maybe a 1.5 star. That 0.5, that 1.5 will have been only for this character and this one set piece in this book that I really thoroughly enjoyed. But again, it could have been cut out and nothing would have changed. The overall narrative, I think, just didn't work. I feel like I could kind of tell when there was an author shift, and the territories themselves, so badly described. I'm sorry, but it really is badly described in this, unfortunately. And I hated Jack, the main character, too. I really didn't like him. He was abusive, and he would make some of the stupidest of decisions. He was very painfully unlikable. Really couldn't stand him, which made it that much harder to read. A nearly 1,000 page book with him as the main character, with him as the lead. I'm dreading reading the sequels to this one because apparently Stephen King is writing Talisman 3 as we speak. Stephen, put the pen down. I would take the Tommyknockers 2 over a Talisman 3. Are you kidding me? I've got 2 more of these to look forward to. I'm never going to DNF a Stephen King book for my Stephen King series because I want to read everything from cover to cover so I have fully rounded thoughts on them. But I wanted to DNF this about 8 or 9 times. It was one of those things where I was like literally scratching my skin because I really, really wanted to stop reading and I wouldn't allow myself to. It was that boring, that bad. Pretty much hated it. I'm going to quickly talk about the next two because I think both of these are a product of their time and they kind of just have not aged well. So one of them is Hell House by Richard Matheson, I think his name was. Oh my god, that was terrible. The role of women in that book, awful. The way that they were so subservient and their portrayals were just genuinely vile to me. Also, the story was actually not as interesting as I wanted it to be because it is supposed to be like a haunted house story. And unfortunately, I couldn't overlook the visuals of Jesus's phallus, for instance, or the fact that we had these women getting perved on by ghosts. It was just a really bizarre mixture of a lot of things. I just don't think, again, like it aged very well, so I don't really want to talk too much about it. One of those reading experiences where I'm like, I love the idea of it, honestly, and I'd heard about it. I know Scary Movie 2 parodied it, and I freaking love Scary Movie 2, but the book itself was just so poor. And the same can be said as well for The Magic Toy Shop by Angela Carter, which I really do feel like might get me in trouble, because a lot of people do love Angela Carter, but oh my god, it was terrible. It was so bad. There was quite a lot of fatphobic undertones, some racist undertones as well. The main storyline of like the whole Magic Toy Shop thing, criminally underutilized. It was predominantly about child abuse, family abuse, incest, weird stuff about bodies, and it was just really bizarre. I really didn't like it. Weirdly enough, the main character was putting flowers in her pubes in the first chapter. Oh, I think I was a punk rocker with flowers in my pubes. Do you know that song? And I can't remember how old the main character was. She was like a young girl, I'm sure. But she's picturing her parents having sex. And I'm like, why have I picked some of the strangest books to read this year? Unintentionally. The Magic Toy Shop I did read back in January 2025. It was one of the first worst books I read this year, so my memory's still a little bit hazy on it, but I just remember finishing it going, people like Angela Carter? Holy shit. It was just such an unpleasant reading experience. Never again. I know she's written The Bloody Chamber as well. Is that any better? Should I read it? No. And then finally, my worst book of the year, and like I feel like I don't really have like too many visceral reactions to a lot of the books on this list, but I definitely have a visual what's the word? I literally just said it. A visceral reaction to this one that I'm about to talk about. And I only read it last week. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. What the fuck was this? I miss the person I was before I read this. Why is the main love interest in this an ICE agent? Why are we kind of glorifying that? Why are we making the ICE agent, this Nazi, sympathetic and lovable and sought after and hot? Literally, I was turned off by this by chapter 5. Not only was this just an absolute copy and paste of other stories exactly like this does have a competition called the Purging Trials. So we have a lot of Hunger Games comparisons. We also have like Throne of Glass comparisons, Twin Crowns comparisons. I also think there's plagiarized Red Queen, but I've never read Red Queen, so I don't know. And I'm pretty sure Lauren Roberts shoplifts a Target as well. I can't prove it, but I just know it after reading this. Yeah, we have Payton. She is the main character, and she is part of the slums. Kai is the son of the prince, and he is literally the person who deports poor innocent people because they're ordinaries. He has a reputation of being a monster because this is what he does. He breaks families apart. He finds out if a family is hiding an ordinary, and he executes the ordinary and condemns the family to death by deporting them from the place that they live. And this is your main love interest. This is your main character who you fawn over. And it's the characters as well themselves. The characters themselves. Payton as well. She's like, oh, I should resent this man because of what he does to my people. But I don't. I don't find him resentful. And the amount of time she's sympathetic towards him as well. I'm like, girl, open your eyes. Even Payton's best friend as well, when she first hears that Payton ran into the prince, aka the monster who deports people, when she first hears about that, her best friend says, oh, is he as cute as they say? Would people really fucking say that about people who literally condemn people to death? People who literally kill people? Kai even says himself point blank that torturing helps him feel sane. He has killed before and he will kill again. And he is our main love interest. He's a Nazi. And so I'm so confused at any kind of redeeming quality on this man. There isn't one. There isn't one. So I'm like, why is the author forcing this love story? Why is she forcing Payton to have sympathy for this person? Well, not a person, sorry, monster, as he's referred to numerous times. It really did feel so icky to me. And then nothing else as well was interesting. Everything I've seen before. The whole Purging trials, seen before. The interviews to get them favour with the people so that they can move up the rankings and do better in the games, seen it before. Being given a life of luxury before these games, seen it before. I'm telling you, her local Target needs to look at their security cameras. I just find it so funny that I didn't actually feel that strongly against my worst books of the year this year until last week when I read this book. I was like, okay, I found a book that I hate that I know I'm going to talk about in the worst books of the year video and have a reaction to it. It's like this book purposefully provoked me. And I'm taking it very personally. Way too many conveniences with the main character as well. Way too much plot armor. Way too many things that don't make sense. Like when the king, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a scene with the king near the end, and I'm just like, there is genuinely not one word coming out of his mouth that I can fully believe. This is all convenience, plot armor, just so that the author has an exciting scene, and there's genuinely no way that we got to this moment the way that the author is trying to write it. And Peyton was trying so hard to be Katniss 17, and yet at the same time she said every single chapter, if they knew the real truth about me not actually being psychic, if they knew the truth about me, they would kill me. They kill my people. And yet I still want to put my tongue up the prince's unwashed arsehole. I don't understand her. And I don't understand the world building. I don't understand the characters in this. How can you talk so favourably about people who deport your people? Who slaughter your people? Please. Oh, genuinely so terrible. So terrible. I do apologise to anyone who enjoys this book. Like, please do enjoy what you want to enjoy. But I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't stomach it. Definitely my worst book of the year. And I literally only read it a week ago. Thanks a lot, Snake Across My Bookshelves. Festive edition. Other than Powerless, I really don't feel like I had like that much of a strong reaction to a lot of the other books, my worst books of the year. I'm telling you, I had a pretty good reading year. I feel a little bit let down by my worst books of the year video, I'm not gonna lie. Usually I'm a lot more angry. But this time I'm just vibing. I'm hoping 2026 will continue to be a good year for reading, and so I don't have to have that many books in my worst books of the year video. I much prefer it when I have the books that I love. But yeah, that's pretty much my worst books of the year video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. So please do leave this video a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave all the comments down below. Let me know if you agree with anything or disagree with anything. Let me know what your worst books of the year are as well. I'd be so keen to find out what yours are. See if we have any similarities. A huge thank you to my channel members for supporting my channel, and if you would like to join my channel membership, the link is in the description box. But yeah, I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye.